Hello. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Welcome to the 2012 California Cognitive Science Conference. My name is Boris Kamada, and I'm the president of the Cognitive Science Student Association, an undergraduate student organization at UC Berkeley that has been putting on this conference for the past 4 years. On behalf of all of us at the CSSA, thank you so much for being here. Before we begin, I would just like to request everyone to please take a moment to silence your cell phones as a courtesy to our speakers and other guests. Thank you. We have a fantastic conference planned for you today. We'll hear from researchers who are leaders in their fields. I'm not kidding, folks. These people have defined new paradigms of research and intellectual thought in cognitive science. We are thrilled to have them with us today. We are also immensely grateful to our poster presenters, who are all conducting original research in many diverse avenues of cognitive science. Furthermore, I would like to thank the Synesthesia Association of Berkeley and the Tamarcos Sufi Meditation Detail for their workshop today, as well as formally express our gratitude to all of our sponsors. They are, in alphabetical order, the Associated Students of the University of California, the ASUC, the Biological Sciences Division, the Cognitive Science Program, the Helen Wills Neuroscience Institute, the Institute of Cognitive and Brain Sciences, the Linguistics Department, the Philosophy Department, the Redwood Center for Theoretical Neuroscience, the Social Sciences Division, and the Undergraduate Division at the College of Letters and Science. Please join me in thanking them for fostering a forum for interdisciplinary exchange. Before we begin, let me say a few words about consciousness. The song you just heard was called "Where Is My Mind?" Well, that's a great question. Where is the mind? Is it in the brain, or is it a property of the brain? Does the mind have a location at all? Is it an object extended in space? How can we use the disciplines of cognitive science, which include neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, computer science, anthropology, linguistics, and the other social sciences, to unravel this great mystery? How do we bring the tools of modern science to bear on answering questions about consciousness that have been with us for thousands of years? And what is consciousness anyway? Well, as I see it, consciousness is what it is all about. Without consciousness, you would not be able to perceive the world, have thoughts, feel emotion, or care about anything at all. In fact, the you that I just referenced would not exist because the very notion of self is inextricably linked to consciousness. Consciousness is central to all those things we consider at the core of our humanity, and even to all the things we consider essential for any sentient being. In a nutshell, consciousness matters because without consciousness, nothing could matter. If we were not conscious, we would lack the ability to care about anything. So as I said, consciousness is what it's all about. Today, we seek to investigate consciousness and understand the nature of mind. What is the mind? How does it work? How did it evolve? How do we study it? How does visual perception work? What are the neural correlates of consciousness? How do we model thought? And what happens during altered states of consciousness? All these questions and more will be explored today. So I hope you're as excited as I am. But if that didn't convince you, at around 4 p.m., we'll be serving some freshly prepared, delicious cream rolls. So I do hope you'll stick around. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Koch. Born in the American Midwest, Christoph Koch grew up in Holland, Germany, Canada, and Morocco, where he graduated from Lycée de Koch. He studied physics and philosophy at the University of Tübingen in Germany and was awarded his PhD in biophysics in 1982. After 4 years at MIT, Dr. Koch joined Caltech in 1986, where he is the Lois and Victor Trundle Professor of Cognitive and Behavioral Biology. In 2011, he became the Chief Scientific Officer of the Allen Institute of Brain Science in Seattle, leading a large-scale, focused, and high-throughput 10-year effort to understand the coding of the visual neurocortex. He loves dogs, Apple computers, rock climbing, trail running in the mountains, and biking. But who doesn't? The author of more than 300 scientific papers, journal articles, patents, and books, Dr. Koch studies the biophysics of computation and the neuronal basis of visual perception, attention, and consciousness. Together with Francis Crick, with whom he worked for 16 years, he's one of the pioneers of the neurobiological approach to consciousness. His latest book is called Consciousness, Confessions of a Romantic Reductionist, and is available for sale here today. We are honored to have Francis Koch with us here today. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you very much. All right. I think we're live. It gives me a particular pleasure to talk here since my son Alexander graduated from cognitive science here in 2005, from your program in 2005. I'm going to talk to you, I'm essentially giving two talks. One is sort of the exploration of consciousness in humans, and then more recently we're moving to experimental animals, because you can study consciousness at the much more reductive causal level in a way that you're unable to do in humans at the Young Institute. So in lieu of the definition, is it possible to darken the whole here completely, this 4 minutes? Because in lieu of giving you a definition, people, are trying to give a definition of consciousness, but how here doesn't really work very well. If you just fixate either on this cross, this white cross here, or the white cross in the middle of the movie, if you just keep your eyes very steady, all right, what do you see? Just tell me, what do you see? It's not a trick question. So you should all see a globe of blue dots, right? Otherwise, you should see me afterwards. You might be blind. But what you should also see, if you keep your eyes steady, is that one or both of the yellow squares disappear. Is that the case?
Yeah. Yes.
And so the difference is sometimes you see the yellow squares, sometimes you don't. You still don't fully understand why this happens, but sometimes you're conscious of it. So when you see them, you have feelings for them. They look yellow, they remind you of other yellows, the yellow sun, the yellow in Van Gogh's yellow sunflowers. You can talk to the yellow, to your neighbor, and when you don't see them, although the physical stimulus is still present on the retina, something's changed in the brain and you're not conscious of them anymore. And the question that I'm now pursuing since 25 years, and that Francis Crick and I were motivated by, is where's the difference between when you're conscious of them and when you're not conscious of them. And the claim is, once we understand consciousness in this very simple case for little yellow squares, we probably have understood a very large aspect of consciousness, because the high-level aspects of consciousness, including self-consciousness, are probably closely evolutionarily related to this simple form of color consciousness. So there are two philosophers, John Searle and others, have emphasized this. There are two phenomenological properties of consciousness that are really key to consciousness. If you think about it, there's an almost infinite number, practically an infinite number of different possible conscious states you can experience. Every experience in your life is an utterly unique experience, right? The combination of what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, your body state is utterly unique, and you can experience a sheer uncountable number of them. The other thing is that consciousness is unitary. So this is when philosophers refer to the unitary or holistic aspect of consciousness. So right now, when I'm conscious of you, so I can see you, I can see, for example, the red exit signs, I'm unable to see you in black and white. I'm unable, whatever I'm conscious of, I apprehend as a whole. I'm unable to, for example, only once I'm conscious of this, I'm unable to just consciously see the left or the right half. Of course, I can cover my eyes or something, but that's very differently. Whatever I apprehend consciously, I apprehend as a whole. Those are probably the two unique properties of consciousness. Now, what consciousness has, what makes it particularly difficult to study, but not impossible to study, is what philosophers again refer to as a first-person account. So if you study from a physicist, and so physics is very good at studying things like black holes, studying things like neutrinos, Higgs bosons, although they can't find it, galaxies, proteins, molecules, ionic channels, brain. Those are all things that have physical, so-called third-person properties. You can weigh them, you can poke them, you can bombard them with laser light, and you can deflect them, you can put them in a magnetic scanner, this is my brain, in an fMRI machine, you can You can put a brain in an fMRI machine, you can observe it from the outside. But at the same time, this brain, unless it's dead or in coma or asleep, also has conscious experiences, right? This is what makes consciousness unique. There's not only the third person aspect of consciousness, that when you're conscious, you behave, you do certain things go on in your brain, but in addition to, there's the subjective point of view, which incidentally, until recently was totally neglected. I mean, until recently, even still today, you can read some neuroscience textbooks without realizing that the owner of these brains is actually conscious. The owner of this brain, for example, when you talk in terms of vision, actually sees something. To see something means not only to make sensory motor, visual motor behavior, but you actually have a picture. I actually have a picture of you in my head. And the mystery, how does this picture get there? And so what makes consciousness a little bit different from black holes and proteins and nerve cells, that it also has this first person account. And the challenge for us as scientists is, and philosophers and scholars of consciousness in general, is to link the third person objective account of brains that generate consciousness. What part of the brain generates consciousness, and do the neurons have a particular molecular signature, or do they project to a particular part of the brain, or a particular part of brain states like oscillations that are associated with consciousness, to relate those third person properties to the first person properties of consciousness. So the mantra, you can go endlessly and read hundreds of books of philosophy and mystics and religious people about consciousness, but ultimately what really has happened, what has changed in the last 30 years, that the question of consciousness that used to be something that could purely be addressed in a speculative, metaphysical, philosophical, mystical tradition, now is becoming an empirical object of study. And so ultimately the mantra for us as scientists who care about consciousness is, this is Galileo Galilei, measure what's measurable and make measurable what is not. So in other words, try to measure what you can measure.